What's up? Welcome back to the channel, Detroit Poker. In this video, we're going to talk about one hand history from each day. I played 5 days of poker in a row, and we're going to go over what I consider to be the most interesting hand from each day. If you want to find out what's been going on with me lately, hang out to the end of the video and I'll bring you up to speed. So with that being said, let's jump into hand number 1. Alright, in this first hand, we're in the big blind. We have Queen 10 of hearts, and we have $390. The under the gun player, he's pretty nitty. He decides to rock the open limp, and the action gets to gentleman in middle position. This guy is a very, very active regular at MGM in Detroit. Dude likes to give action, so he cuts the raise to $11, and the action folds to a unknown player on the button, playing 200, maybe a little over. He's just an older gentleman. That's all I really know about him. He makes the call for 11, and small blind folds, so I decide to make the call as well. And I did debate 3-betting, but I just thought better of it. And oddly enough, under the gun folds. So we're going to go to this flop 3 ways. The flop comes King Jack 4 with 2 clubs. And we're going to start out with a check. And the action gets to the pre-flop raiser in middle position, and he checks also. And the button checks it back. So we're going to the turn 3 ways. The turn comes off a king. Interesting card. I decide to place a bet for $25, and my thinking is that we can definitely have this king here, and we might just get everyone to fold, and we'll just pick the pot up. However, if we get called, we do have some equity to fall back on. Middle position, pre-flop raiser, he makes the call pretty quickly, and the button makes the call also. So we're going to go off to the river 3 ways, and the river comes another 4. I decide to just kind of follow up my story here and put a bet in for $100, pretty polarizing bet. And the pre-flop raiser quickly folds. However, the guy on the button doesn't think too long at all, and he makes the call. So put the Queen 10 of hearts on the table, and he looks at it for a second, and he just says, oh, okay. And he turns over Queen 4 offsuit for the win, bottom full house. So that's the hand I chose from day number 1, and we're going to lose this pot. So let's move on to hand number 2. So in hand number 2, we are in the big blind. We have approximately $450, and we get dealt 8-6 of hearts. And the action folds to a guy in middle position, and he limps in for $2. And the guy on the button decides to raise over the limper, and he bumps it up to $12. The small blind makes the fold, and I decide to call in the big blind with 8-6 of hearts here for a couple of reasons. But the main reason is this guy on the button is pretty green, and he's pretty inexperienced, and he's doing a lot of weird stuff, so I don't want to miss an opportunity to potentially make a hand on this guy. So we do make the call, and the guy that limped in, he makes the call as well. The limper's playing, I don't know, approximately 225 behind, and the raiser has about 275 to start. So that being said, we're going off to the flop 3 ways, and the flop comes out pretty good for us. 6, 6, 10 rainbow. So we make 3 6s, add 2 more 6s to our collection. And we're going to check the action over to middle position, and middle position checks in kind. And the action gets to the pre-flop raiser, and he decides to place a continuation bet for $20. Obviously, I think folding is out of the question here. So we do decide to make the call, and the middle position limper decides to fold. So we're off to the turn, heads up, and turn comes a 3 of diamonds, putting it back to our flush draw up. So we decided to check it to the guy a second time, and he places another bet this time, but he ramps up the sizing. He bets $50 instead. So we have a decision here. We could do one of 2 things. We could either check raise, or we could just call. But because of the stuff I mentioned before, this guy is kind of making weird bets, and he doesn't really seem to know what he's doing, and he's making merging mistakes. I think what I'm going to do here is just make the call again. I just want to give this guy some room. I think more than likely he probably just has nothing. So that being said, we do kick in the $50, make the call, and we're going to go off to the river. Heads up, and the river comes a king of diamonds. It does bring in the backdoor flush draw. Not really too worried about it, but we're going to check the action over to the button for a 3rd time and see what kind of action he's going to choose to take. He kicks in another bet, same bet, $50, and the action's back on us. And I think it would be pretty unlikely that this guy made a flush and take this sizing, so definitely can't really raise here. I mean, maybe we could make a case for raising, but I'm pretty happy to just make the call and go to showdown. So make the call at $50, and the dude shows. I'll give you a buffalo nickel if you can call his hand. So pause your video or whatever, and put a comment down below if you want to try and guess. So he has ace-5 of hearts, just a total airball, no backdoors, anything like that. So we're going to scoop this spot up, and we're going to get into hand number 3. All right, in this hand, we are in the cutoff. We had $325, and we get dealt pocket aces. Pretty happy about this. The button straddles on for $5, and by the time the action reaches us, there's 2 limpers into the pot. Decide to cut a raise, obviously, for $30, and very, very quickly, the person on the button makes a call. And if I had to describe this person, very, very loose and pretty aggressive, will generally stab when checked to. The action folds around, so we're going to go heads up to the flop, and the flop comes 4-6-8 rainbow. Definitely not the greatest flop in the world for aces. However, the button's only got about $90 behind, so we could do a couple things. We could bet, or we could check. So I decided to check and kind of try to induce this player to make a betting mistake, and we're basically just going to check jam. So that's what we do, check it over, and the button pretty quickly obliges and places about $55, not leaving much behind, about $35 behind. So as planned, we just check rip, and button insta-calls, like no delay whatsoever. So we're going to the river, heads up, and all the action is closed. The turn comes off a 7, and immediately when this 7 comes off and puts up the one-liner, the 4 to a straight or whatever, I can see the button react. The only way I can describe it is they can't wait to show their hand. And the river comes off, what is it? A 9. Quickly, the button tables 9-10 of spades, and button's going to win this pot, and we're going to lose, obviously. In this hand, we are in the hijack, and we have about $300. We get dealt ace-4 of hearts, and everyone folds, and we're going to raise first in to $7, and the button makes the call for 7, and this player is just unknown to me, and the big blind calls as well, another unknown player. So we go to the flop 3 ways versus a couple of strangers, and the flop comes out king, 10, 6, all hearts. So good news for us. We flopped a joint. Big blind checks the action over to us and decide to place a bet. $7 again. I think this bet will probably accomplish a lot. So the action is on the button, and he makes the call pretty quickly. And the action gets to the big blind. And I'm pretty happy to announce that this guy decided to check raise. So he bumps it up to $45. And now the action's back on us. And it can be tempting just to kind of re-raise, but I don't think that really accomplishes anything except get the guy to fold unless he has a flush. So that being said, just deliberate hesitate for a little bit and just make the call. And the button gets out of the way and makes the fold. So we're going to the turn, heads up. And turn comes off a 7 of diamonds. So we still have the best hand possible. That's good news. No board pair or any kind of complications. But this time, oddly enough, the big blind checks. I kind of expect him to keep betting, but he decides to check and try to pot control. So obviously a bet is in order. I'm just trying to decide on how much to bet. Eventually I settle on $75, and the action's back on the gentleman in the big blind. He does hesitate for a while. He's deliberating, doing the chip dance, but ultimately he does make the call. And we're going to go off to the river, heads up, and the river comes off a 4 of clubs. So we have survived. We still have the best hand possible on the river, and the big blind checks again. So the action's on us, and we cover the big blind slightly. He might have 140, 150, somewhere in that range. So I do kind of hesitate, do my best to earn the Academy Award for Best Actor, and trying to look unsure. And eventually we just jam. And now the big blind really goes into the tank, and he's talking to himself, and, you know, kind of listing the possibility of hands that I could have. And ultimately, you know, he is asking me questions, you know, do you want to call and this and this and this and this and this? And generally, when somebody's talking to me, when they're trying to decide whether to call me or not, I just don't say anything. I just look at the pot or look at the board cards and just don't say a word, ever. I never answer any questions, don't engage anything. So finally asked me, will you show if I fold? And I just don't say anything. And then that's what gets him to call. He just, you know, it triggers his call emotion or whatever, and he puts the call in, he says, I call, and he flips one chip in. Quickly flip my hand over, give him the bad news. And he was a really good sport about it. You know, he said, yeah, nice hand. I knew I shouldn't have called, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to scoop this pot up, and pretty happy about this one. So let's jump into the next hand. All right, in this hand, we are in the cutoff. We have $415, and we have King, Queen of diamonds. The time the action reaches us, there's one limber, under the gun one, and he's playing probably about $400, give or take. So he's pretty deep stacked, and decided to cut a raise for $12. And he actually gets to the small blind. Small blind makes a call. Average stack size, $200. And the limper makes a call as well. So we're off to the flop, 3 ways. And flop comes Queen, 10, 6, couple of hearts. And both the opponents check to me. So I decided to place a continuation bet. I'm going to go on the large side here. This board is pretty draw heavy, and I unblock hearts. So that being said, bet basically pot $35. Small blind folds pretty quickly. However, the person in under the gun one decides to make the call, and off to the turn we go. The turn is a bittersweet card. It is a king of hearts, so it does bring in the front door flush, but at the same time it gives us top two. Much to my dismay, the gentleman in under the gun one decides to dunk for $50. So the action's on me, and, you know, I don't know this guy under the gun one. He's a stranger to me, but he does seem inexperienced, and just kind of like he's doing a lot of weird stuff, like limp in every hand, and just, I don't know what he's doing. So if I didn't have top two, I would probably fold, but considering that I have top two, we might actually be beating some of the hands that he's doing this with. But it does feel icky. So make the call, and we're going to go off to the river, heads up. And if things weren't already bad enough, things get a little worse now. The river comes a 7 of hearts, and it does put 4 hearts on the board. I don't even know if we have a bluff catcher anymore. We basically just have like a piece of garbage. So under the gun one starts assembling a bet, and he assembles another $50, and he slides it over the line. And as soon as he crosses the line with it, I just muck my cards. So he's going to pick this pot up, and we're going to lose, obviously. All right, so after 5 days of poker, the grand total is negative $518. So not the greatest thing to be booking a loss for the week. However, I'm not going to let it discourage me. Poker is a long-term game. I've had this happen plenty of times before. I think things are going to turn around real soon, but it is kind of a continuation of what's been happening before, which brings me to my next point. In case some of you are wondering what I've been doing, I told you to hang out to the end of the video. I had a pretty big downswing at 2.5, and I decided to take a poker training course, and it lasted a month, and it was pretty labor intensive, and it really kind of educated me to a lot of things that I can do better. So after the course concluded, I played online poker for approximately 1 month, and it did help me get a lot of reps in. I probably played 50,000 hands, you know, over the course of the class and the month after. So pretty high volume. And then I decided to come back to the live arena. Online poker, I just felt like I was in the house all the time, not getting any exercise whatsoever. So I decided to come back to live, but instead of playing 2-5 like normal, I think it would be a better idea just to start back at 1-2. And, you know, I don't want to just wipe myself out just trying to stay at 2-5 or whatever. So we'll get back to 2-5 eventually. But for now, we're just going to be playing some 1-2. Just get back on the right track. And definitely not off to a good start. First week being a mild loss, but I'm optimistic things are going to improve, so I'll keep you updated on that. We're going to be doing videos every week, so definitely subscribe if you haven't done so already, and click that like button if you like my videos. Don't forget to stop at the website, DetroitPoker.net. It's a good way to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.